AI is a very contentious issue in the world at large at the moment. So today, I'd like to present a balanced case for its use in content creation, specifically through the lens of a small creator. I'll be going over the ways in which it can be used, whether or not you should use it in that way, and of course, the ethical considerations that go along with that. When the idea of using AI for content creation is brought up, what's the first thing you think of? For me, the first thing I think of is those videos that use AI voiceover. I'm sure we've all seen at least one of those, and we know what those voices sound like. There is a distinct sound to an AI voiceover. But what are the reasons that you would want to use this? For starters, there's the argument of confidence. If you're a small creator in particular, you might not have found your voice yet, nor may you feel comfortable in talking for long periods of time into a microphone or into a camera. You may not know how to make your voice sound good or how to accurately portray the feelings or the point that you're trying to get across. Therefore, from this perspective, using an AI for voiceover sounds very appealing. You can feed it any word that you want it to say, and I'm pretty sure that you can actually add tone and inflections with like updated models. So in essence, you can get an AI to say everything you want to say exactly how you want to say it without having to develop those skills yourself. Ethically, there are two primary ways to look at this, in my view at least. The first, and this is the case for all of these things we'll be discussing today, that the first consideration is the work that's potentially being replaced. In this case, the only work being replaced is work that you would be doing. If I was to use an AI voice model to voice over this video, the only work being replaced is this, me sitting here and talking to the camera. From an ethical standpoint, therefore, it could be argued that there's no harm done. I'm not deciding to use AI so that I don't have to pay somebody else for their hard work. I'm just making it easier for myself. The other ethical consideration is the broader use of the AI model and what your contribution to that could ultimately impact. There are a lot of concerns about how AI voice models can and are being used, particularly for imitating certain individuals or for replacing actual roles and jobs for people who do voiceover for a living or do speak into cameras or microphones or whatever for a living. There's an argument to be made that by using these models, we are helping to enhance their capability, which in essence could lead to them replacing more people. While in this specific case, I would only be replacing my own work, there is an argument to be made that in me doing so, I'm helping advance the AI in such a way that it could replace potentially tens or hundreds of other people. And as we will soon come to see, this is a consideration that has to be taken into account for every single use case of AI in content creation. So ultimately, do I recommend using AI in this way as a small creator? It's really up to your own judgment. And I know that that's a very cop-out answer. It's sort of a non-response, but ultimately, I feel personally that no, you shouldn't do that, because these skills that we develop in growing comfortable on camera and growing comfortable talking about something we're passionate about at length, they're very transferable skills that don't just benefit you in this way, they can benefit you in general social life, they can benefit you in traditional work environments, they can benefit you in so many different ways. So by choosing to not develop these skills for yourself, there's an argument to be made that you are robbing yourself of the opportunity to become better as a person and a more confident person. However, on the flip side of that, I'd be lying if I said that recording voiceover or recording live action shots such as this one is not at least a little bit tedious. I enjoy the process of it because I enjoy just talking. But I'd be lying if I said that so much of my video creation process wouldn't be easier if I didn't have to do this. And I can speak from experience with this. When I'm doing client work and I'm working with other individuals who've already recorded their voiceover, their live action clips, my job becomes so much easier. All I have to do is take the files that they've already created and then edit on top of them. It removes a good 20% of the process, in my opinion. And of course, just because I say that developing a skill is good for you and that practicing, getting better at communicating via camera or whatever it is, just because I say that that's a good thing to do, doesn't automatically mean that it's something that you want to do. The next potential use case for AI in video creation is script writing. Scripts are genuinely one of the most important things that you can create as a content creator. It's genuinely like the meat and potatoes of what we do here. Because a video can be as flashy as you want it to be in terms of editing. It can be perfectly paced, your performance in the video can be absolutely spot on, but without a solid foundation for those things to lie on top of, that being a script, the video is nothing. AI, therefore, can be used to create that foundation for you. You can give it the topic of the video that you intend to write about. You can give it certain parameters of what you do and do not want to discuss. I'm pretty sure you can even give it sources that you wish to reference within the script, and it will just create a script for you. A process that takes creators hours, days, weeks, can be done in seconds with generative AI. And that's the main pro of doing this, in my eyes. It saves an immense amount of time and effort spent on the creator part. However, I would argue there are a lot of cons in doing this. First of all, as models like ChatGPT are very, very quick to point out, AI can and most likely will make mistakes. AI is not a subject expert. If you want to create a video about something that you know that you are passionate about, there's a high likelihood that you know more than whichever AI model you are choosing to use. For example, I wrote a video about Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, a video game that I have played a lot, I have explored every nook and cranny of, I've played to completion, and I've experienced all of the bugs of. I understand the greater context of the game and the time in which it was released, what was going on in that game's series at the time of its release. I understand the development story and what happened behind the scenes with that game, and I understand generally the impact that that game had on series fans and the series as a whole. There is no guarantee, however, that ChatGPT will know those things. It can scour the internet and get a general impression of what people thought of the game or what the game was about, but it's missing the core context and the feelings that I would feel towards that game. And that's the core thing here. Even if it could be argued that ChatGPT or any other AI writing model could have the fundamental knowledge about a subject area, it's missing the primary thing that draws us towards YouTube and towards individual creators: the emotional side. I'm sure you could tell ChatGPT that I did or did not like this game, here are a few reasons why, and it could create a coherent script out of that. But at the end of the day, it will not be able to accurately capture your feelings, your emotions, the way that you react to whatever happened within that game, and the feelings that you have as a result of that. Going back to my Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach example, I don't think ChatGPT ever could have captured my raw, visceral reactions to some of the game's events, and the immense, intense feelings that I felt towards the game because of that. And there were large parts of that script that I wrote out of anger. I felt passionately that there was things wrong with this game and the way that it was executed was bad, and that fueled me to write the script in the exact way that I did, and that is just not something that ChatGPT is capable of. At least as far as I'm concerned. In terms of ethical considerations, I think we're in a pretty similar position to the voiceover argument, at least as small creators. I know that people in larger scale businesses with YouTube, they have people who write. They have writers on payroll to be subject experts and to take the thoughts and feelings of the individual and turn that into a coherent script. In that case, there's no two ways about it. Using AI to write a script is inherently trying to replace the jobs of those writers, and I would argue that's not ethical. However, from the perspective of a small creator who is doing all of this themselves, it once again comes down to a case of the only work being replaced would be my own. And as always, the second consideration is that you would be helping adapt and train that AI model, so there are larger considerations as to what the impact of that could be. The third use case for AI in content creation is video editing, and I've got to be honest, I'm really torn on this one. I don't believe, or at least I'm yet to see evidence, that any AI model can edit videos as competently as a human. Ultimately, video editing is a form of artistic expression, and so the ways in which we edit these videos and the minute details and the intricacies of how we go about doing that, I don't think they can be captured nor replaced by any AI model. However, I would argue that there could be a case to be made for using AI to do simpler edits. For example, there are so many AI models that will take a video clip and it will remove the pauses, it will remove the silences in that video clip so that you have a more cohesive clip. There are also AI models that will auto-generate subtitles, which is really important. Especially for short-form content, having subtitles on screen that accurately match what is being said in the video is extremely important. Of course, this is obviously the case in terms of accessibility. You want your video to be seen and enjoyed by as many people as possible, and nobody should be left out of the experience of your video because of a disability or some sort of visual impairment. I've just realised I said visual impairment when I meant hearing impairment. But there is also the principle that your videos should be easy to understand without volume. For video intros and shorts in particular, somebody should be able to watch the preview of that on the YouTube homepage and understand exactly what's going on, and subtitles are often one of the easiest ways to achieve that. And for both of these things, trimming down audio or video and generating subtitles, AI is really, really helpful. In my own experience, it used to take me at least an hour or two to get the subtitles done for any given short that I was releasing. But then a few months after that, I discovered a plugin for DaVinci Resolve, which is the editing software that I use, that uses an AI model to automatically generate subtitles. And that process went from taking me an hour or two to actually 5 minutes. Like, that's it. That's insane. Ethically, I don't know where I stand with this, particularly as somebody who is a video editor who does that for work and is trying to make a living out of doing that. This is the first one that's really impacted me and could potentially threaten my livelihood. And yet, for the simple edits like that, not the big stuff, but the simple, tedious edits that take more time than they do skill, I really struggle to make a case against AI in that case. For full-scale video editing, for creating assets and doing intensive edits, I would not recommend using AI, both practically and also ethically. If you're unable or unwilling to learn how to edit yourself and you use AI to do that, then there's no two ways about it. You are removing work from people such as myself and the many other people who try to make a living doing video editing. But for these tedious tasks, I only am able to see AI as a tool in that case. The next use case is video idea generation. The idea that a video is fundamentally centered around is the single most important thing outside of titles and thumbnails, which, don't worry, we'll get onto. So I can understand the appeal of having an AI generate those ideas for you. And while AI has the capacity to look at what is working in your niche, in different niches, outlier videos on similar topics, I don't really think that it's capable of creating good video ideas. I can only talk from my experience here, but I have experimented out of curiosity with getting ChatGPT to generate some sort of video idea. The videos that I primarily make are about video games, so I chose the name of a game that I was interested in covering, and I asked ChatGPT to generate some video ideas surrounding this game. And the results I got, honestly, weren't great. They were either video ideas that a cursory glance at any search results for that game would tell you had been done to death. They weren't video ideas that were really feasible or relevant to the game in question, or they just weren't interesting. To me, this once again comes down to the fact that AI cannot and will not replace or be better than the creativity and ingenuity of the human. It might take us a while to come up with video ideas, but I guarantee if you sit and think about it, you think about what you're passionate about and what interests you, what you want to follow, you will come up with a banging video idea that you cannot wait to execute on. And again, that just comes down to the emotional side of things, which AI fundamentally lacks. Now, a potential caveat to this is that once you have came up with a video idea on your own, there is a potential argument that AI could be used to help refine that idea. I don't have much first-hand experience on this, but let's say that you were a cooking channel and you wanted to do some sort of challenge about cooking food. You could use AI to help narrow down the parameters within which that challenge takes place, so that the challenge would be more unique and more clickable. The ethics of the latter are really up for interpretation, but I would argue that the ethics of the former, getting AI to just generate video ideas from nothing for you, I think they're a bit more black and white. I'm not trying to virtue signal, nor am I trying to tell you what you should or should not do, but from my perspective, ethically speaking, trying to get AI to replace human ingenuity is just wrong. As a tool to enhance the creativity that you already have, sure. I can absolutely see the arguments for that, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with those arguments. But to completely strip the human side from the idea creation process, I don't think that's okay. And that leads us on quite nicely to title and thumbnail generation. You may be surprised by what I have to say here. For thumbnails, there are two particular ways in which I can see AI being used. The first is just to generate a thumbnail. You give it a prompt and it creates an image based on that prompt. I think categorically this is wrong. It's another case where if you don't have the skills or the willingness to learn the skills that go into creating a thumbnail, if you don't have that, you are taking work away from someone else. And I understand the argument that not everyone has the money or the resources to hire someone to help them with thumbnail design. AI in that case is not trying to replace a person, but rather make up for a lack of funds. And you know what? I can sympathize with that. I really can. But when you look at the ethics and the wider scope of what those models are doing in the artistic climate, there's just not a justification for it in my mind. So many people are trying to use AI to replace artists, and by contributing to the models that people are using to do this, you are helping defund artists. And I, for one, am not on board with that. However, the other way that AI can be used in the realm of thumbnails is for idea inspiration. You can either give AI a prompt as to what the video is about, or you can give it an idea that you already have for a thumbnail, and it can generate a bunch of ideas that could potentially work. And perhaps controversially, I don't see an issue with this. I really don't. If you're using AI as a launch point to help get that initial creative spark, or to help refine an idea that you've already thought of, I think that's perfectly fine. And you know what? I would make the exact same argument for title generation. Would I recommend using AI to come up with a title from scratch? No, I wouldn't. There's a lot of psychology that goes into the art of making YouTube titles, and I think, if nothing else, that's an interesting enough thing to study that you shouldn't rob yourself of. But I also just think that humans are better at coming up with those emotionally striking or interesting titles. However, if you have a title that you're pretty happy with, but you want to experiment with different variations of, AI is perfect for this. I know from my own personal experience, I'm currently, at the time this video goes out, working on a video about Animal Crossing Wild World. I had an idea for a title that I was pretty happy with, but I wanted to come up with some different variations of that title. So I popped that title into ChatGPT, I explained the premise of the video, and I asked for some variations. And you know what? It came up with a title that was better than what I had. And not only did it do that, it came up with 20 to 30 different variations, and I could just keep prompting it for more that followed a particular style or tried to invoke a particular mood. There are so many ways in which a single title concept can be iterated upon, and ChatGPT is really good at doing that. In a way that I'd argue humans maybe can't be. I mean, I'm by no means saying that I couldn't have come up with all of those titles myself. But what I am saying is, I don't think that given the time I have to give to this video, that I could have came up with all of those titles in that allotted time frame. Again, it wasn't replacing the creativity that I already have within me. It was simply enhancing that creativity and trying to best represent the video that I was making using data. So there you have it. Those are the primary use cases for AI in content creation, how you can use it as a small creator, and the ethical considerations to go along with it. If you disagree with any of my points, then I implore you, please let me know in the comments. Let's have a discussion about this, because it really is an evolving and complicated issue that I'm genuinely fascinated to hear your thoughts on. And if you like this video, then you might like the last video about whether or not content consistency is actually important as a small creator. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.